Apologies for the belated start. It's sunny and bright, but drivers are still challenged, at least in Buffalo this morning. Pleased to convene one of our regularly scheduled Joint Finance Committee meetings. And as always, I'm pleased to have our distinguished team of trustees here with me this morning: B. Gonzalez, Cecily Morris, Michael Cusick, Laurie, Wheelock, and Lewis Warren. Dennis Trainor had a last minute crisis to deal with and has been excused from the meeting. Justin, Adam, and the team, as you'll hear from over the course of this discussion, are with us as well. As always, the meeting has been duly noticed, as scheduled and required rather by open meetings law. And with that, I'm pleased to call the meeting to order. Well, I had an opportunity to review the agenda as presented, and I'd ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as we have seen it.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carried. Having said that, my bad. Unless anyone has a particular need, our intent is to bypass our exec session this morning. We think the agenda is pretty straightforward, and I'm getting nods in the affirmative. So I'm sure Karen would have requested that I amend the agenda to drop the exec session and have a motion to approve the amended agenda. So can we rerun that on an amended agenda that drops the exec session, please?
So move the amended agenda.
All right, thanks, Cecily. A second again.
Second. Second.
Thank you. And collectively, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much, and apologies for all of that. Everyone had a chance to review the list of contractors and submit their conflicts and any need to recuse unless there's any late-breaking developments. We can move forward from there. That said, as I've already indicated, pretty straightforward agenda. Have a number of action items on which we will collectively hopefully support release of funds for a number of initiatives in addition to Adam's regular financial update. So with that, let me turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Adam Barsky.
Good morning, trustees, NYPA colleagues, and members of the public. So first, we'll go through our first month of actuals for January. We saw a strong month in January, getting off to a good start of the year. We had $23 million of net income against the budget of $7.5 million. Most of that was a result of temperature related. We had much cooler January than expected, as we all know. We had 30 more heating degree days than we had the same time last year. So our revenues were higher, particularly down in the senior region with our merchant plants for our peaker plants and our other merchant plants. Those did much better than the budget. Niagara did slightly better. St. Lawrence also better. So we saw some benefits there. Prices are also higher. Natural gas Henry Hub is just slightly under $4, but again, higher than what had been previously projected. We are also seeing that expenses came in line on the operating side. We had some increased expenses that are showing here as expenses, but what it really is represents the monetized funds, which is when we have, because of the increase in prices up in the northern region, in the western part near Niagara, those prices are higher than the tariff rate. That excess revenue above the preservation power rate goes into economic development fund. So that money shows up here as an increase in expense, but it really means we're putting money away for the economic development in the western region. The other expenses went up related to some asset retirement obligations and some benefits true ups that were done for January. But other than that, everything seems to be in line. Investment income slightly, much higher than we had budgeted because interest rates are currently higher than, again, was forecast when we put together the budget. As we know, because of uncertainties in the market around inflation and other things, that the Fed has been slower to reduce interest rates than they had currently planned. They have a meeting tomorrow. We don't expect an increase in rates there either. So we'll still be in this higher rate environment for foreseeable future. Any questions on January? If there are none, we'll go to the current year-end projection. Current year-end projection, we're showing slightly below a target right now. We do see some headwinds as we look out for the rest of the year, particularly with respect to hydro flow. We see that hydro flow is looking lower than what had been originally forecast, up to 1 terawatt hour as of now. We'll see what happens as we have the melt in spring and what other changes may cause that number to come back. But right now that's coming in lower, but offset by, we're also seeing much higher prices as well. So that should offset some of that, but we still see things being lower, and also some revenues that we expected to come in this year. We see those potentially either at risk or moving out later than was originally planned. But otherwise, everything else seems to be in good shape. Any other questions regarding this or the year-end forecast?
Would you put the 1 terawatt in context, Adam? That's 1 terawatt out of...
It's 1 terawatt out of approximately 21. So 1 terawatt is worth about $40 million in revenue.
Okay. How much?
$40 million.
And that's what, 4% or so of what was expected?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. And given where we are, temperature and otherwise, the opportunity for that significantly changing, I'm assuming, is pretty limited. The melt has already happened.
Yeah, I think this is based on a longer term forecast anyway. So like the incremental fluxes that are more immediate are all captured in that. But what we're seeing is over the period of the year, just all that forecasting shows the 1 terawatt increase forecasted for the year.
Okay.
Yep. And as we, again, as we are looking out towards the rest of the year, we're sort of watching things very closely. Obviously, there's lots of volatility in the market right now, given, I would say, sort of the fog of war of what's going on in Washington and elsewhere. So there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatility right now. So we're watching things very closely. We do have a deal that's, going to go into the market within the next month, so long as the rates, are in the range to make sense. This is the prepaid transaction we had discussed last year and authorized, being done through ESDC. And what this will do, it's about an $800 million transaction. And what it will do is lock in savings for our customers on purchase power, and also be able to serve as a vehicle to bring in PPAs that our customers have entered into for renewable projects, and allowing them to capture a discount on their price up to, in the 10% range. So we're really looking forward for that transaction to happen. It'll be the first time there's been one of those in New York State. So a lot of people are excited about it, especially in the investor community, because, this is transactions they see around the country, but having it being in New York and triple tax exempt, there seems to be lots of demand for this. And, the better pricing we get, the more savings there will be for our customers. So we're looking forward for that.
Can you talk for a minute, Adam, about the tariff battle and to the extent it impacts power and the Canadian, threat or promise to throw a tariff on power, the impacts on us customers? Can you just editorialize for a couple minutes on that, please? You or Justin?
Yeah, I mean, on the tariff side, we are going to see higher prices in that upstate region as a result, as we are seeing now. We're not affected directly by that, other than it may lead to higher prices for market power, and some of that market power, will get passed on to some of our customers that are relying on market power, so they may feel, the pinch of that. But other than that, we're not affected directly. And we think right now, it's again, too early to tell in terms of what other areas are going to be impacted by the tariffs, but the ones that we know of today have limited impact on us, because as you know, we buy mostly all domestic unless we go and ask for a waiver. So it really depends on what, countries end up having tariffs imposed, and, whether or not that's something we're exposed to. But right now we're watching it carefully. We have a task force internally that's looking at all the issues around the impact of tariffs and some of the other changes. So this is being watched very closely on our side.
And let me just add to what Adam said. It is primarily a wholesale market issue. A lot of discussions that we've been having with the NYSO about how they would collect the tariff if it was imposed on their market transactions and so forth. But for us, as we sit here at NYPA, we don't have any bilateral contracts with Canada, and so we're not directly affected, only through the wholesale market activity where we're indirectly participating.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
And what about Justin?
Sorry,
Adam,
Louis, go ahead.
On the procurement side, with increases, do most of our contracts for everything from transformers to other materials that go into our transmission and the entire infrastructure of us, how will that be impacted by everything from tariffs on steel, et cetera? I know a lot of the transformers, for example, are procured external to the U.S. from Finland, Sweden, Canada, and other places.
And maybe Trish could respond there.
Yeah, good morning, Trustee Warren. I think to answer your question, I think to Adam's point, it does two things depend on the country of origin. So right now we have a number of major contracts, mostly with European vendors for the large power equipment, breakers, transformers. So right now, tariffs not on those countries. Steel, as Adam mentioned, so our contracts, to the extent possible, do require U.S. steel unless we grant a waiver, which again, we try to go few and far between. I think one example right now we're looking at closely is we do have the new Niagara 600-ton gantry crane currently being fabricated in Canada. The steel was purchased in the U.S. So we're working closely with that supplier to understand what's going to happen there. But again, the steel has already come from the U.S., so we've already paid for that material. Again, we're just going to see what happens when it does try to clear customs coming in the next couple of months. But right now, to Adam's point, we're working closely with SSM to understand how the large equipment will be affected.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That's helpful. Obviously, a lot of noise, chatter, speculation. So the clarity's been beneficial. Thank you. So we'll obviously stay in tune, stay in touch. But at this point, aside from what I'll call, at least sitting up here in Western New York, a favorable impact of market pricing and the benefits to us, as we'll address in a couple minutes, the power proceeds, your crystal ball forecast is holding together reasonably well.
Yes, but the crystal ball definitely has lots of fog around it. So I would say, given the fog,
I think we'll be in a perpetual fog. I think we have an extended period here. So, okay. All right.
Yep, no other questions. And then next week, we'll give an update on February as well. Those numbers are just getting closed as we're sending the materials out. So we'll have an update on February next week. But, what I could say is everything is, trending in the same way as January. So it's going to pretty much be a repeat of January, but we'll talk more about that next week. If no other questions, we could go to next items on the agenda. So we have a couple of release items. I think we'll go through them one by one. And I know, Chairman, I'll defer to you. Do you want to vote on each one or
No,
or
we'll
do
take
it
them,
all
we'll
as,
take them all as a group. That's fine. I think it should work out fine, but yeah, go ahead, Adam. We'll cover them all in total.
So, right, so these are releases. Some of these are the normal ones we do, such as the canals for the Q2 release of 27 million. That's the normal based on the budget. We don't see anything different there. There's a workforce development funding program release, and this is anticipation of the amounts that will be entered into or obligated during the fiscal year related to the workforce development grants, which is really in April 1, 2025 to March 31st, 2026 period, to align with the state's fiscal year, given our MOU with Department of Labor. That's for up to $25 million. The next one is the voluntary contributions that we make to the state. And this is for the one that was passed in last year's budget for the year ending March 31st, and that's for $5 million. As you recall, that had been $20 million a year for many years. And over the last few years, we had negotiated with the Division of Budget to have that number phased out. So it went from 15 to 10, and now it's 5. And even though this year's budget will, in the state budget, will have 10, we expect, all things being equal, that will be at 0 this time next year. The next one is the Western New York Power Proceeds Allocation Act release, and that's a release of 31 million over to the Western New York Economic Development Funds. Again, this is reflecting the higher prices than the tariff, and that money gets deposited into that fund to be used for economic development programs. If there are any questions on that, please let me know. Otherwise, I guess we would ask for and recommend a vote.
Well, let's just step back through those one at a time for a minute. So Canal
Sure.
Corp, obviously we're into winter work and repair and all the rest of that. When we left each other in January, you were having a pump out, and some combination of us were, I think Cecily was going to the pump out and all the rest of that. Quick canals update. Are things progressing as planned, anticipated? Anything of note?
No, nothing of note. Everything in the recurring plan in terms of O&M is on track. In fact, there's some productivity gains that we've gained from some of the new staffing that we have around full-time staffing that we work with Green on. We've had no surprises. There have been some incidents. We found some sinkholes and so forth, but those are things that are within the realm of what we expected this time of year.
So whether it's operating or capital, you're operating within the expected parameters.
So far, so good. Yep.
Okay. Did you make the pump out, Cecily?
I did. Oh my gosh.
Was it an adventure?
It was great. It was great. I'm telling you, the Canal's workforce is top notch. They are cream of the crop. They love their jobs. They were full of information. We went all the way down in the lock. It was an experience, and I'm so glad I got a chance to do it.
Oh, terrific. Thank you for taking the time to do it. Anybody else wants to jump in as I'm going here, feel free to do that. Workforce development, Adam, this is the second of this is the second 25 million, right? I mean, Laurie's reported out, or the team's reported out on the first 25. We've had some great outcomes, great results. We're anticipating the same
Next
with the
year.
second tranche.
Yes, this is for the second tranche.
Correct. Okay. Voluntary contribution, well done with negotiating the step down or step away from that. Well played, well done. Good work to you and your team, and kudos to the state for standing tall on that. And power proceeds, that's great news. Coming off a down year in 24. So happy to see that. We have an abundance of opportunities to support up here in Western New York. So I'll take that as a very positive development as well. So, other
Yeah,
thoughts,
and on
questions?
the
Go ahead.
canals, I would just add, for the benefit of the trustees, that the governor had put in her budget another 50 million for canals capital infrastructure work. And so that's for the second year in a row, and both houses in their one house bill have included that $50 million as well. So I would say that there's a very high degree of certainty that we will see, this appropriation become law on April 1st. So we're excited about that because, as we spoke about last year, this is really not about getting a one shot. This was about getting a forward commitment on an annual basis to pay for the infrastructure for the canal. So this is an important step in that direction, and so we're excited about that.
Terrific. Glad to hear we've got the makings of a trend. So again, well done working with the second floor to affect a positive outcome there. Any other questions, comments?
Is there anything new or different or interesting coming through with the next tranche of funding for the workforce development programs? Just a quick sentence.
This is the money to tee it up. I think the programming evaluation is being developed, but I offer that as filler to Laurie hops in here.
That's absolutely correct, Chair. Sandra is going to be presenting something in a few minutes to fill out the first 25 million allocation. And then we are already working on the strategy to expend the next 25 million for the fiscal year 25-26.
So this is really to authorize it, not spend it yet.
Right, I was just.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. We're always looking for opportunities, quality opportunities there. So spread the good word that the pot is full, and we're willing and wanting to support the right initiatives. Well, unless there's anything.
And I'd say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, just because we had such a robust response to the first RFP that we issued with regard to workforce development, we do intend to issue a second RFP for fiscal year 25-26.
And this is matched by DOL, if I remember right, as well.
It's not matched, Chair. It's 25 million, up to $25 million that we share with DOL. So depending upon who has plans to move forward, then we split up the $25 million between the two parties.
Okay. Louis.
Yes, sir. So one question on the Western New York allocation. Is that a one-time allocation for calendar year 2025 budget, or is that part of an overall allocation, Adam?
No, that just reflects what we are anticipating this year that would be moved into those allocation funds. So based on what we saw in January and what we're forecasting for the rest of the year, this is providing that release. So as it materializes and as there are opportunities for the economic proceeds board to find economic development projects, they could then recommend to NYPA to enter into contracts for economic development projects. So this is just to enable that money as it is realized to be available for expenditure on programs. But there's already a significant amount of money in the fund already, so this just will add to what is already there.
Yeah, no, this is obviously positive for Western New York, and that's very good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, just to reiterate, we came off a down year. Market worked against us last year, so it's nice to get the bounce back and have the benefit of the dollars that are available. Critically important, supporting many programs and opportunities and needs here. So that's great news, and excited to see that trend reverse. All right, with that, I'd ask for a motion to collectively recommend approval of these 4 releases to full board next week.
So moved.
Thanks, Pete. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thanks very much, Adam. Appreciate that.
Sure. Yep.
Good
Thank you.
start. Keep it rolling. 1 month down, 11 to go. All right, next up, some contract awards, Stephen Damsky, relative to Project Illuminate, our ERP program in the HR area.
Yes, sir.
The podium is yours.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, trustees, and the public. Project Illuminate is a program to replace NYPA's current on-premise SAP platform, which is 20 years old and is approaching technological obsolescence and is being removed by standard support by its vendor at the end of 2027. In January, we brought to you the finance portion of the project. Today, I bring to you for your approval the final contracts for human capital, sourcing, and project management quality assurance portions of the project. The team has been working very hard on the negotiations and believe that we've been able to achieve the best price with Workday, providing a 76% discount over list price. Evalua, which is for source to contract, is a 38% discount over list price. And Deloitte continuing to provide us a 12% discount over previously negotiated NYPA rates. In addition, by awarding to Deloitte both portions of the project, we were able to negotiate an additional $2 million discount on their services. Additionally, we're requesting additional funding being added to the previously awarded Gartner contract. The scope of the original Gartner solicitation was for readiness and for contract negotiation. And then after we had identified what the solution was going to be, they were going to come back and submit the contingent negotiation fees and the fees for the continued project management and quality assurance portions of the project to oversee and help us do the implementation. Overall, Gartner help of those previously identified discounts, Gartner was actually able to help us achieve 19% of it, or a little bit over $17 million of additional discounting beyond what our internal team was able to do. This is a very good team effort between everybody who was involved, including working with Gartner, and we're very proud of the fact that we were able to achieve such big discounts. This is what looks like better than what we can get for educational pricing. So at this time, we are requesting your approval, and if there are any questions.
We talked about it before. How's the overall project progressing at this point? I think what started.
We are finally wrapping up.
Go ahead. Sorry.
We are finally wrapping up everything from readiness. We have a lot of accomplishments we've done. We have finalized all of the understanding of our interim processes, end-to-end processes, which is the first for us. We have identified most of the resource capacity needs that we have in the organization, have commitments in order to get them backfilled. And we have a very good handle on our data and data governance. We've identified source to target for a majority of the data that we need to migrate, and have been working with the internal data governance team to ensure that we are actually going to be able to migrate it effectively. And we are working on our holding strategy for all the data that we are not migrating, so that we can ensure that we stay in compliance with records law.
And from a capacity standpoint, internal capacity, we've been able to navigate and manage the project without undue stress and strain at this point?
At this point, we've done a very good job of working with the extended team. We've got about 20 people on our extended team representing all parts of the organization. And they've been helping us identify what the capacity needs are in order to support the project. And we're working on ways to either get them to backfill, readjust internal workforce to ensure that we get the adequate representation that we need on the project. So we feel very confident at this point that we have plans in place to be able to achieve the full capacity needs.
Okay. And again, you're not achieving your discounts with Deloitte and Gartner on the back of our own team. So you're not impairing our ability to otherwise execute. So Okay.
No.
Other questions, comments? Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion to recommend this item to full board for adoption next week.
So moved.
Thanks, Laurie.
Second.
Have a second, Louis. Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Thanks very much, Steve. Appreciate it. Good work.
Thank you.
And speaking of work, Dave is up next. Talk about allocation relative to additional funding needs for energy efficiency programming.
Good morning, trustees, NYPA staff, members of the public. We are here today requesting the Finance Committee recommend approval of $800 million in additional funding for 19 previously awarded value contracts supporting our energy efficiency customer program. All funding, excluding applicable grants, will be recovered from program participants. This request pertains to capacity within the value contracts only. All purchase orders will be released within the company's expenditure authorization procedures for these contracts moving forward. In December of 2019, 19 service providers were awarded contracts with an initial allocation of $1.5 billion for a contract term of 7 years expiring in December of 2026. To support new and ongoing projects over the next 2 years, we're requesting an additional $800 million, and a new RFP is currently in development for these projects or for these services beyond 2026. The additional funding is needed due to an increase with project work with customers. For example, in 2019, the entire customer project portfolio was $265 million a year in annual spending. In 2024, that number is $358 million. We are on track for similar numbers in 2025 and have a robust pipeline of projects. In 2019, that was $1.8 billion. In 2024, that's $2.8 billion. This is really projects that are in the early stages of development all the way through projects that are in active construction. So robust growth in the program. Similarly, we've seen the benefits from the program increase. Greenhouse gases is how we monitor a lot of the performance of the program. In 2019, we saw 950,000 tons of annual savings of greenhouse gases. And then in 2024, that's now 1,080 tons of greenhouse, 1,080,000 tons of greenhouse gases saved annually. These increases are being driven by a variety of factors. The primary is a focus on decarbonization, electrification across our governmental customer base. We're seeing that because of the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, various executive orders, and local laws in New York City driving decarbonization across that sector. This work directly supports New York State, New York City carbon reduction efforts while lowering their energy costs and replacing end-of-life infrastructure. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Dave, give us some context. Give us a couple example projects so make sure we understand the nature of this work.
Sure. A good example, I know that last year we were in talking about the Office of General Services, Empire State Plaza, large electrical and mechanical project we're doing to decarbonize the plaza. So that's a good example. I know there's a robust discussion on that probably 2 or 3 meetings ago. Other examples would be MTA bus charging. We're actually replacing all the buses or all the charging infrastructure across MTA depots to support their move to electrification of buses. Those are some big projects. Lighting, we do a lot of electrical and mechanical projects in buildings. So these are HVAC systems, chillers, upgrades to the building system to drive energy efficiency and decarbonization.
Are we going to work our way out of this, or is these projects, is the pipeline of opportunity / need continuing to build, or is there a finite number of solutions? Educate me.
That's a good question. So we've seen a lot of growth, certainly in the past, 5 to 7 years. It's a function of a lot of different things. Like I said, the decarbonization, but at the same time, this program has always been driven by end-of-life replacement of infrastructure. So, if you look at the value of this program starting in the 90s all the way through to today, one of the core pieces of it is we take old end-of-life infrastructure, we replace it with more efficient alternatives, and we take that savings and use it to actually pay for the equipment. That's still there and riding throughout. I think the future of this and where it heads from a decarbonization perspective, we certainly haven't seen the end of that yet. We monitor that very carefully. This is a cross NYPA effort. We have a lot of different partners, so we're always looking at where we are. But as of right now, we're seeing strong growth. We're seeing a strong pipeline. We're seeing a lot of work for the foreseeable future on this, but we're constantly monitoring that, looking out with planning, working with finance. I think Adam presents that to you as part of the financials, but we look out at a 4-year and a 10-year forecast to see where we are from a work perspective.
And these costs ultimately are net, it's a push for us and that they're recovered from the program participants, correct?
That's 100% correct. And I think one important point to note is that, as the trustees are well aware, we're in the middle of the decarbonization leadership program, which is we're actually looking at comprehensive decarbonization plans across 15 of the top facilities in New York. We anticipate a significant volume of work will be coming out of that as well.
Okay, important stuff. Other questions for Dave? Thoughts, comments? All right, if not, I'd ask for a motion to recommend approval of the 800 million over the next 2 years and bring that forward to a full board next week.
So moved.
Thanks,
Second.
Pete. Second, Louis. Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. Good work, Dave. Garish is back to talk with us about property acquisition, Astoria. We chatted about it last month or within the last couple months, and obviously continued progress is being made. So Garish.
Good morning, trustees, NYPA colleagues, and the members of the public. I'm here to request that the Finance Committee recommend to the full board the purchase of 15.7 acres land parcel adjacent to existing NYPA facilities in Astoria for $206.75 million. The property has been on and off the market. It was previously owned by NRG, which was unsuccessful in getting the DEC air permit for the new dual fuel combined turbine generator. We have gone through a competitive process here with the seller and are currently finalizing the purchase and the sales agreement with the seller. The property being acquired is located, as I said, next to the existing NYPA facilities, and has an extremely long history of over 70 years in utilization for energy projects. This property enables NYPA to plan for future energy projects in a very major load pocket that has significant real estate constraints. NYPA just got a firsthand experience of those constraints as we were working on the New York City public policy need. By purchasing the property, we are ensuring that this asset is used for energy transition that supports the overall state goals. With that, I'd open up to any questions.
So we have no specific plan for this piece of property at this point.
There are several projects that are currently exploring the use of this property. They're both energy transition projects from a transmission standpoint and several other aspects of energy storage.
Okay. And this is the same property we pursued, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and obviously we weren't successful. NRG got it. Their project fell through, so coming back on the market. So it's one that's always been a target for us.
That's correct. NRG sold it to BP Equinor for Beacon Wind offshore wind project back in 22 timeframe. And the Beacon Wind project got split between Equinor and BP is reevaluating their assets. And as a part of the portfolio optimization, they decided to get rid of this property.
What's the downside risk to us?
Based on the work that we have and potential expansion of the Astoria Annex in the near future, we don't see any downside risk except for portions of environmental liability that we will be taking on.
And we've sized the environmental exposure?
Yes, we have. Just, again, from a standpoint, this is going to be a transmission asset and will be placed in transmission rate base, so we don't anticipate any issues there. Also, what we have seen is a significant appreciation of the land values within that area. And this being a brownfield for utility use, it continues to grow in value.
Okay.
From an economic perspective, Girish, I know you briefed us at one of our recent committee meetings. Just comment on the $206 million purchase price versus, your last set of negotiations.
The last set of negotiations, really fell through not necessarily over the price, but primarily over several key things where we would have required to do an equity purchase of an existing LLC and would have been significantly responsible for supporting decommissioning. We've also, subsequent to that pricing, we've gone out to the market several times. And the most recent appraisals for the property within the area have been between, $290 to $320 a square foot. We are somewhat in the middle with about $300, $305 a square foot on the pricing. In addition to that, at this point, the site is pretty much, flat ground, with the existing assets being fully decommissioned. So there's been definitely a price appreciation from that standpoint. Also, some of the recent transactions within the area have provided a much more better view in terms of what the value is. In addition to that, we are actually buying this property for less than what it was sold for previously by about $10 million.
Well, that's very helpful. And so the contract has been fully negotiated. Is this for the final? Are you requesting our final approval to execute the contract? Is that where we are today?
So there are two things. We're requesting, obviously, a recommendation to the Board of Trustees to approve the purchase and also execute the purchase and sales agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's pending our approval, Louis, so.
Okay.
But obviously a long sought after parcel, second bite at the apple. I hear you, Louis, similar conversations in terms of appreciation, but swung and missed the first time, so, yeah, a valued parcel that, we're confident in utilization in the years ahead, so. Any other questions, thoughts, comments?
Just a little bit, if I could come back to the brownfield issue. So essentially, we're going to be using it for a purpose that's acceptable for property that's already been designated a brownfield. So I might be wrong or remiss with my words, but essentially, even though we're taking on a parcel that has some environmental negatives, shall we say, it's a wash because we're going to be using it within the acceptable uses for brownfield property. I don't know.
That's correct, trustee.
Okay. Okay. So the next question would be then, so we don't have to clean this up to use it.
That's correct. There's no necessary cleanup required except, when we dig anything up and we have to dispose it off properly.
You good with that, Cecily?
I mean, yes.
Is that responsive?
I guess my that then asks the next question, which is, do we anticipate a lot of digging up of contaminated property that then we're going to be charged with the responsibility of getting rid of it properly?
That's actually a great question because most of the property actually, sits at a level which we will need to bring clean fill in to raise it to build new structures on. So from that standpoint, it's going to be very, very limited.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Michael? Any thoughts?
None for me, Mr. Chair.
Laurie, you good?
Yeah, my questions were based off of what Cecily asked, and I guess just moving forward, since we're not sure yet what we'll use the space for, if we could just keep us posted on plans, and again, if there is any need for cleanup, I think that would be good to know. So thank you.
B, you good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. If I could ask then for a motion to recommend this item to full board for adoption next week.
So moved.
Michael, raise the motion. B, second. All in favor? Aye.
Bye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, Garish, got it across the finish line.
Thank you.
Starting line. Thank you very much. Good work. Next up, pivoting a bit. Relicensing capital expenditure authorization, Andrew. Podium transition. Need some music.
Good morning, trustees, committee members, colleagues, and members of the public. I'm here today to present one item, which is for the St. Lawrence FDR Power Project relicensing compliance. We are requesting that the Finance Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees the approval of a 10-year agreement with the Local Government Task Force and an increase in compliance funding in the amount of $51.7 million. The request will bring the total authorized St. Lawrence relicensing funding, inclusive of operating licenses, commitments, and settlement agreements, to $234 million. The slide that presented here denotes a number of items requiring additional funding to maintain license compliance, such as ecological projects, projects that are managed by the New York State Office of Parks and Recreation. They manage them on our behalf, but they are part of our recreational project, a recreational plan with FERC. Refurbishment of a seawall at Barnhart Marina, and the conclusion of a shoreline program. As you may recall, the St. Lawrence project 50-year license agreement requires a review every 10 years with the Local Government Task Force, which is comprised of 8 community members, schools, and the county, to determine any needs that were not contemplated back in 2002 when the original agreement was reached. Some of the new initiatives in the 10-year agreement include recreational support, energy efficiency projects, EV chargers, and an increase in emergency responder support. That's my item. I appreciate it. Thank you. And I would certainly answer any questions.
Oh, sorry, Rob. Andrew by another name. Thanks, Bill.
I've been called much worse.
Well, explains why it took a while for Andrew to get to the podium. He never made it. All right, Rob. Make sure I've got this. So there's a 50-year relicensing started in 2003, and there's a 10-year ante up, if you will, or relook, right? And so this
Correct.
is
Yes, sir.
the third 10-year tranche.
This is the second 10-year review.
Second 10-year review.
Yes.
Okay. 20, whatever. All right. Okay. And this 50 million is directed by for us to support initiatives in connection with that?
The 51.7, sir, addresses both license compliance items and the 10-year review items that were agreed to with the local government task force. It addresses both of those things.
And so the 230 in total for the last 20 years, this will take us through another 10 years, and then there'll be another 10-year review, additional funding provided.
There will be another 10-year review. I would expect that the 51.7 will take us further than that on the license compliance side of this request, of which that's roughly about 30 million of the 51.7 are license compliance issues. And that should get habitat improvement projects and additional work that we're going to have to do, refurbishment of certain facilities. That should get us further than 10 years. The 10-year review amount here is approximately $20 million. That will get us through the next 10 years. And that portion will need to be looked at in 10 years from now.
Okay. Cecily, your thoughts?
So just a little bit, maybe, Rob, if you could kind of parse that out a little bit for the trustees. So there's a portion that is compliance back to 2003, or maybe even before, but certainly with the relicensing in 2003. And then there's an additional portion. If you could describe those a little bit better, maybe, for what the two different numbers are and why we get a total of 51.7, why one probably is likely to take us past 10 years and why the other will be reviewed again at the next 10-year review.
Certainly. To address the local government task force 10-year review amount, which is roughly $20 million. Those are things that back in 2001 and 2002, when the agreement was originally reached, was just not on the horizon. It wasn't being thought of, particularly with EV chargers, the energy efficiency. While we had a program, it wasn't specifically identified inside the agreement. It did become part of the first 10-year review, and the communities benefited so much that they asked for it again this time. The recreational improvements, the local government's task force asked for additional funds for that because they received $7.5 million the first time in the first 10-year review, and they have completed 2 projects, and a third project is currently underway, all of which will be added or increased to our recreational program that we have with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So it's within our boundary, and it benefits us to some level, providing additional access and recreational opportunities in the area, and it certainly helps their business stance with respect to opportunities for others to come into the area, et cetera. The other side of that, the compliance side, there are a couple of projects, particularly ecological projects, that we have that just never matured and reached what was agreed to with the federal and state resource agencies. Particularly, there's a project, the Common Turn HIP, which back in 2002 identified a 1,400 pair. I know this gets a little geeky, but 1,400 pair average over 3 years that we have to reach in order to achieve the goal of the settlement agreement. We've never gotten over 1,100, and we only hit over 1,100 once. So we're trying new options and to reach those goals. However, those options are expensive. We're renting a barge this year to identify more sites, more area for the terns to nest. If it works, the purchase of a barge could certainly be considered, and that could be well over $1 million. So there are those types of programs that just have not reached. There's a sturgeon bed, which is also part of that that we have not completed as yet. Additionally, there are facilities that State Parks manages for us, Barnhart Marina, Coles Creek, of the two, Robert Moses State Park. Those facilities need some upgrading to maintain a safe environment for visitors. So there's work there being done, and that should get, so those items are things that should build sufficiently to get us through the end of the license, but need to be addressed now. There's a parking lot, as I said, there's a seawall at the Barnhart Marina that needs to be done, which is a safety issue.
Thank you. And when we talk about, so it was 2003, 2013, and this is actually the review that would have been effective or started in 2023. And the next negotiation will be in advance of 2033.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, that's correct.
Anything? So this is, I mean, you negotiated the outcome. I mean, there's nothing else that is. I mean, I'm looking at Joe here too.
Yeah.
I mean, anything you can.
Yeah, I think the reason I think you're thinking of three is there's the original obligation that was put in 2003. That was the biggest chunk, and then those obligations are what Rob is talking about in terms of compliance. And in the review process, there is other considerations that are brought forth by the stakeholders that FERC would consider us to look at, and we go into negotiations, as Rob's team does, with those parties to see what mitigation measures we can put in place and what those will cost us to continue the license. So as he said, some of the recurring things will just go beyond the period of the 10 years and kind of just roll into the next thing. But the performance targets that you talked about, these habitats, for example, we haven't been able to achieve. So we're going to have to continue to come up with ideas and experiment and invest in those things to get to the targets they want for the sturgeon or these terns. And that would add incremental cost on top of what was going there. So those are the kinds of things. And then if there is and when Casey mentioned a seawall, considerable physical infrastructure that is not considered stable, that would be on us to mitigate that. And that would also be an expense we'd have to negotiate and come up with a plan to repair in compliance with what FERC mandates us to do in that area as well. And that boundary in St. Lawrence is significant. It's a very long, thin, significant FERC boundary. So these kinds of projects come up like that. Rob, any clarifying comments to what I just said?
No, you did very well. Thank you.
Okay, again, analogous to what we have here.
It's exactly the same thing. Ours is a few years behind in Niagara region. Right. So, because we had relicensed that in 2006, I believe.
Right. Yep.
So there's continued reviews there as well, but this is the St. Lawrence version of that.
Okay. All right. More time than you wanted to spend, probably, Rob, and your brother Andrew. So, unless there's any other questions, I ask for a motion to recommend this item to full board for adoption. Cecily, want to move it?
I did move it. Yep. Thank you.
Second.
Second.
Hi, Michael. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right. Thanks a lot, Rob.
Thank you.
Hi, Andrew. Last item for us, Sandy, workforce development. Laurie referenced it earlier.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, trustees, NYPA colleagues, and the public. I'm here today to request approval for additional grant funding for a total of $3.95 million to be dispersed among 5 training providers for the Clean Energy Workforce Training Initiative. To date, we have $21.05 million have been approved for clean energy training programs. The previous programs are beginning their trainings, and I look forward in the months to come to share their successes and student stories. So the 5 programs I'm presenting for approval. Oh, sure.
We've got some background noise somewhere. I think it was Audrey. Somebody needs to mute us there. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Sandy. Apologies.
No problem. So the 5 programs I'm presenting for approval today are as follows. 1, an award in the amount of $200,000 is requested for the Bronx Economic Development Corporation, EDC, Workforce Training Initiative. The Bronx EDC is a mission-driven 501c3 nonprofit with the purpose of building up the Bronx business community. The proposed program is in partnership with the Bronx Tech Hub, which is a nonprofit organization also dedicated to fostering technological advancements and improvements, building a tech ecosystem, and bringing more resources to the Bronx. The funds will support a pilot program that's aimed to equip 8 Bronx-based college students with the exposure and training necessary to take advantage of opportunities in the clean energy industry. Students will be selected from Hostos Community College, Bronx Community College, and Lehman College, and they will attend 5 clean energy focused workshops on topics including clean energy production, transportation and infrastructure, clean buildings, and career readiness. And then the students will also participate in a 30-hour paid 8-week internship, which will provide them with hands-on relevant experience in the clean energy sector. And that's 30 hours per week. The second award, an award in the amount of $1.05 million is requested for the Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA, Workforce Training Initiative. LIUNA members are a skilled and experienced union workforce trained to work safely in the construction and energy industries. The funding will support and allow LIUNA to grow their pre-apprenticeship programs. This series of courses prepares members from disadvantaged communities for careers as union construction craft laborers in Buffalo, the Hudson Valley, and the Capital Region. The pre-apprenticeship program will train 70 students throughout these 3 regions. The program will provide access to high-quality careers in the unionized construction industry, and students will have an ability to transition directly into a structured apprenticeship program, thus providing them with an opportunity that they may not have been able to access. They will receive a stipend during their 8-week program and other supportive services through their community partners such as the Seat Center, Capital Region and Orange County Workforce Development Boards, and the Center for Employment Opportunities. The third, an award in the amount of $755,000 is requested for the Osborne Association Workforce Training Initiative. The Osborne Association was founded in 1933. It's a nonprofit organization serving individuals, families, and communities affected by the criminal legal system. They are the oldest organization in New York State serving people involved with the criminal legal system. They operate community sites in Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Buffalo, and run programs in 40 of New York's 44 state prisons. The funding will support a comprehensive training program designed to equip 150 participants from disadvantaged communities who are affected by the legal system with technical and soft skills needed to secure employment in high-demand green energy roles. The Green Energy Workforce Training Program will address this need with specialized training in EV, battery, solar panel installation, energy auditing, and wind turbine maintenance. The primary geographic focus of this program will be on the Bronx. Fourth, the New York State Labor Management Committee, an award in the amount of $1.33 million is requested for the New York State Labor Management Committee Workforce Training Initiative. The New York State Labor Management Committee is a joint labor management committee comprised of the New York State International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW, and the management representatives from the National Electrical Contractors Association, NECA. They represent the jointly sponsored New York State Registered Electrical Training Programs. The committee serves the 14 Joint Apprenticeship Training Centers, JATCs, located throughout the entire state of New York. The funds will support an expansion of the training currently offered at the 14 JATCs. The coursework will be taught in the classroom setting, supplemented by hands-on training to reinforce the learning. The funds will provide equipment and training for 12 courses, and it will result in 7,968 electricians being trained over the course of 1 year. Over 30% of apprentices and journey workers come from DAC communities. This apprenticeship model promotes economic inclusion for underserved individuals and veterans. Recruitment is conducted through programs like Helmets to Hard Hats and local nonprofits that assist women and other underserved population. With the proposed funding, the IBEW JATCs will be able to support more apprentices, expanding the workforce available to contractors. And last, an award in the amount of $615,000 is requested for the Wildan Clean Energy Academy Workforce Training Initiative. The Wildan Clean Energy Academy was founded in 2019 in a collaboration with Con Edison, Wildan, and a small team of minority-owned businesses. The Wildan Clean Energy Academy is a technical training and workforce development program designed to equip individuals with the knowledge and skills needed to successfully access and grow careers in the clean energy and energy efficiency industries. The proposed program is an innovative 1-year HVAC systems and heat pump pilot training course that serves both as an entry point for newcomers to the industry and career advancement tool for existing professionals. So for this pilot, 100 students from the 5 boroughs, Westchester and Long Island, will be enrolled in a total of 4 cohorts with at least 70% from DAC and priority populations. The classes will be composed of 50% incumbent workers and 50% new workers, a course composition to maximize networking, mentorship, and job placement opportunities. By training alongside industry professionals, the job seekers will gain exposure to real-world expertise. The structure not only enhances learning for all participants, but also provides industry professionals with a unique opportunity to assess job seekers in the classroom setting, observing their engagement, problem-solving skills, and adaptability. The course is designed as a 2-course progression. So there's an introductory 30-hour HVAC Systems 101 level course, followed by a more advanced 30-hour Heat Pump Systems 201 level course. This approach provides participants with a comprehensive foundation in HVAC systems, which is then complemented by a more advanced course on heat pump assessments, selection, implementation, and application. The structure not only equips participants with the technical proficiency required to drive electrification projects, but also ensures they develop a granular understanding of the systems. If all 5 programs are approved, we will have awarded a total of $25 million for our first year of this initiative. Thank you. I'll take any questions at this time.
Thanks, Sandy. So these 5 are the final 5 from the original RFP?
So these are grant awards that they did not respond to the RFP. And so the word, as you had asked before, it's getting out. So people have come to us, they've heard, they missed the RFP. It's really spreading throughout the state. And I have a lot of people knocking on my door and I have a lot of new friends looking for training grants.
And so the RFP, you said these are incremental to the RFP.
Correct.
Okay. And so and Laurie said earlier, you're going to go out with a second RFP. So how are you screening, filtering, identifying these opportunities?
So some have been brought to me through other NYPA colleagues, through networking, and some may have missed the RFP. So we've been reviewing the proposals, ensuring that they are valid and that the businesses are, have been involved in the clean energy sector prior. We plan to put out another RFP in late spring, early summer, around the same time as last year.
So the criteria, what are the key criteria in identifying these, 5 as the right next 5, Sandy? That's all I'm trying to get at.
Sure.
So I get a lot of people are knocking at your door. So how are we staying focused and disciplined and intentional with our awards here?
Absolutely. So what the criteria remain the same, whether it's the RFP or the grant. So we're looking at the training schedule, we're looking at the budget, we're looking at the technologies, the DAC communities, ensuring that there is no charge to the students. So they still follow the same criteria. It's just that it's not, responding directly to the RFP. I also will call in subject matter experts from NYPA. So if I have a certain, like the heat pumps or something like that, where I may not be knowledgeable, is this training correct? We've been calling in someone on team that has that expertise to evaluate that as well.
And just continuing the conversation, I think it'd be helpful if you could recap for us all of the awards that we've made under this initial $25 million tranche and what the expected impacts are as you move down the path to, obviously we approved the ultimately release of the second 25. We're certainly excited and proud of the opportunity to support these programs. At the same time, want to ensure we don't lose sight and focus of the impacts that we're expecting to have. It's tough to evaluate and measure those in the short term, but as we work to approve the second or act on the second 25, just want to ensure we understand and agree on the parameters and the focus that we're looking to achieve.
Absolutely. My plan is now, if this is approved, we'll have the full 25 million from the first year where I can look at geographic regions, technologies, ensure that we are, have a statewide coverage and technology coverage, and then we're planning the strategy for the following year. So I would be happy to present, where they are, what success stories we have currently, because they are just starting to, wrap up some of the first cohorts. So we'll have some impact numbers in the coming months.
Okay. Yeah. And where you foresee the needs and the opportunities to lean in for the second 25, if you can, give us a little bit of a look back, look ahead, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, very exciting. I mean, is this next 25, you're confident we're having the intended impact? We're, starting to move the needle, or at least positioning to move the needle a bit here, as opposed to, it's just a drop in the bucket and we should be doing more?
For sure. I do think so. And I do think that the fact that people have come back to me, that have heard about the work that we're doing, is a sign and a testament to that we are making an impact. NYPA is now becoming synonymous with the words of workforce development, where I don't think we were prior to this initiative. So definitely there has been an impact. And just hearing the stories from some of the students and from the providers, there is definitely, we have started to move the needle.
May I?
Jump in, B.
Couple of things. First, this is really exciting work, and I really appreciate the potential of the work. But I am a little worried, or I'm starting to get a little worried, that we're moving into this grant award process and away from the RFP process, or that I want to make sure that there's a balance and that we don't lose sight of equity and inclusion and geographic diversity. The RFP process is there to create kind of like even though it doesn't, but it should, a more balanced playing field. Moving to the grant awards, I just want to make sure that we're not moving too far, right? From an evaluation that provides access across the state of New York where it's most needed. I'm just a little worried that it almost feels like a no bid process to me, and it just makes me queasy.
Yeah, no, and that's consistent with where I was trying to go with some of that earlier. Want to ensure we're being proactive, not just reactive.
Yeah.
And that we're going where we want to go or where we need to go versus who's knocking on our door. Yeah,
For
Sandy.
sure. I will say sorry.
No.
I will say to start the next year, we'll have the RFP. But I just want to add that some of the grant process is a little more convenient and easier for those smaller community-based organizations because they're not responding to the RFP. So it does allow for a greater geographic focus, and also to, to be able to catch those smaller organizations that may not have the ability to do the same reporting. So it does serve that purpose. And I do plan to continue both the grant and the RFP process, but we'll kick off the next round of funding next year with the RFP to start.
So I guess I think that what I'm looking for is transparency between both processes and the creating a process for those smaller organizations that makes sense to them, but doesn't feel so out of the norm, I guess, right? I just worry a little bit.
Yes, I've been working on building funding guidelines, so we'll have a clear, concise, for someone to look. Do I qualify as a grant? The grants have been 1-year awards, where the RFP have been multi-year. So there are those smaller 1-year projects. So that's one of the defining, but also going through the review process and making sure that they are valid proposals.
Well, what do you consider small? Is 1 million small? I mean, these are all grants, right? The ones we're looking at here today.
Maybe small was the 1 year is really where I would in terms of time. Shorter programs.
Of the 25 million, Sandy, how much was awarded under the RFP versus your grant process? What was the split of the 25?
So 9 million went to the Department of Labor. So of the 16, 11 million was from the RFP, 11.55. So it's about 5 million for RFP. I mean, for grant, I'm sorry. And 11 and 6, 11 for the
11 and a half,
RFP.
4.5.
Yep.
Okay.
Just about that.
Well, kind of 2/3, 1/3, a little bit of that. And does that suggest you need a more streamlined process for the smaller organizations, whoever smaller is? Just trying to pick up on B's point. She and I are coming at this from the same direction. You want to make sure we don't have unintended consequences here of very well-intended efforts. I don't want people gaming or working the system that they think they can work around the RFP process through the grant process, that kind of thing. So any lessons learned from the first year that we can apply going into the second year to ensure we've got optimal execution. I don't know, B, are you and I on the same page here?
We are on the same page, and a lot of this work is about relationship building across the state and knowing where to build those relationships. And so I just want to make sure that it stays as open a process as possible, right, and accessible.
Level playing field. Yeah, I agree.
Agreed. And we will ensure that, moving forward, having those funding guidelines, I think, will be key, because we can publish those, we can put them on the website or wherever they might be, so that you can see if you qualify for a grant or if you need to respond to an RFP, whatever those parameters are. But I will say, again, the grants were determined and, looked at with the same eye as the RFP awardees and the same, scoring type, if you will.
Maybe we can come back to you with some guidelines around the grant portion of this as we head into year 2 here of getting the 25 million out, and put some guardrails around that, and we'd be happy to share that with you before our next meeting.
And just give us a recap, Justin. I was trying to ask Sandy earlier. Recap for us the total RFP, the request coming through the RFP, how much of that, the 11.5 funded, et cetera, what was rejected, why? Just give us a little bit of a look back. And more importantly, then, how does that impact our process going forward?
Got it. Yeah, we'll be happy to provide that.
Yeah, we offer all that with incredible support. Just want to ensure that the outreach and the access and the impacts are, what's intended. And what else we can do to advance and elevate it. So.
And
Okay,
along those lines as well, I think the chair touched on it. Like bang for the buck, like how are whether it's an RFP award or a grant award, I think it's really important that we get the feedback, that we are told that this is working, it's successful, people have the 70 people who engaged in the process become employable. And I think it's really important that we have a return on the investment. And we know, because these are all great programs, great possibilities. They are creating a whole new level of opportunities for employment, but we want to make sure that we're spending it in the right spot and getting the end result that we want. So along the same lines, I guess, when we're reporting back, just making sure that the RFP process and the grant process require the entities to tell us how it's working.
Yes, and I do meet with them quarterly, just to go over, and then they put in a 6-month report. So after the contract is signed, before we sign the contract, we go through milestones and a timeline. And then when they receive their funds, it's based on milestones. So if they're not meeting their milestones, they're not getting their next set of funding until they do. So there's a system in place so that I will meet with them each quarter, talk about what's happening. Are they, if they said they were going to have 15 students in a class and they have 3, we need to talk, right? What's happening? Why are you not, able to recruit the students? So we are in constant communication to make sure that they are following along those lines, and the impact is, is there.
It's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, and part of me, Sandy, I guess, have 2 conflicting responses. That one, what's our ability to audit those outcomes and trust and confidence? Probably more importantly, what's our ability to support these organizations to better ensure they achieve the targeted outcomes? In terms of just our internal resources, how do we, how do we, in the spirit of capacity building for these organizations, to ensure that our funding has a greater likelihood of hitting the intended target? Are we able to support them in ways rather than wish them well? Are we able to hold their hand or lend some intellectual capital along the way?
Absolutely. I've been reaching out, for instance, Soulful Synergy that we funded from the RFP in the first round had just reached out to me and gave me a wish list of who they would like from NYPA to come and help and assist in their programs as guest speakers and things of that nature. So I've been coordinating internally,
great.
whether it's with environmental justice or other experts, in our robotics program, just so that we have our, we're not just giving them the money and walking away, right? If they need help or they need any intellectual capital, we're there to provide it.
Yeah, I'm sure they all need it. And I just want to ensure they're comfortable
They
in
do.
asking. Yeah, and they're comfortable in asking for it. And it's a great opportunity for the broader organization of NYPA to engage in support of these organizations. And as I said, the multiplier impact of not just our dollars, but our intellectual capital and energy, lifting up these organizations and energizing the program. So, okay. All right. We'll take all that as supportive feedback. And we look forward to, the follow-up reporting, and, want to ensure that we're doing everything we can to achieve the intended outcomes here. Unless there's any other questions for Sandy, I'd ask for a motion to recommend this item to the full board for adoption next week.
So moved.
All right, Louis, thank you.
Second.
Thanks, B. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thanks very much,
Thank
Sandy.
you.
Good work.
Thank you.
All right, we look forward to hearing more. Next up is our consent agenda. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review the limited items that were included therein. Unless there's any questions, I'd ask for a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thanks, Laurie. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Michael. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Unless there's any other matters to come before us, that concludes our agenda for today. We're next scheduled to meet as a committee in a couple months, early May. As I said, we'll all be back together to act on these motions and recommendations next week in White Plains. So with that, I'm happy to ask for a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Anyone? Laurie, thank you. Second.
Second.
Yes, Michael, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is concluded. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. We will take a short break, and for those of us that are continuing, Governance Committee will reconvene shortly. Otherwise, thank you very much and have a great day.